Welcome to the Audio Production Town Hall, where you will find us each and every month discussing all sorts of audio-related topics, from music production to audio post-production to game audio and everything in between. So I'm Eric Berzins. I'm the course director of Project and Portfolio 5, and today we are joined by Andrew Scott, who is a Full Sail grad from 2011, recording arts. He's a sound designer at Intrepid Studios. So how's it going, Andrew?
Hey, nice to be here.
Glad to have you. So you are currently working in game audio, and before that you worked in audio post-production at Rooster Teeth and many other things. When you were a student here, did you kind of know that you wanted to get into sound design in that area of the industry, or was that something you figured out later after you graduated?
I mean, when I was a kid, I was more into film, actually. Me and my friends would shoot stupid little videos together. And somehow I always end up being the person taking care of the audio side of things, whether that be music or sound effects or whatever. Obviously, it wasn't very great back then when I was a kid, but yeah, slowly got better over time. And I didn't think too much about it, and I was more interested in the film side of things. So I came to Full Sail to tour the campus, specifically looking at the film degree. But then I mentioned to one of the advisors that I was interested in the audio side of things. And, Full Sail has a great audio degree program, had several at that point. And they say, well, you can learn a little bit about the audio side of things, if you do the film degree, but not very much. And you get way more in depth of a look at it if you did the audio degree instead. And I had already, taken a pretty big interest in audio at that point. I was in my I was in a radio class in high school, and I really loved that. I was working on the Digi Design. It was one of the old consoles, the first one for consumers that had the automated faders, like the mechanical faders. And I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. And, digging around in Pro Tools and learning about that. So yeah, decided, well, I'm just going to go the audio route and learn about audio at Full Sail. And definitely took more of a focus on post-production side, which was more uncommon among the students in that particular degree. But I loved it. And it was really cool getting access to all the cool audio suites and the sound library and everything. It was like kid in the candy store.
So how'd you get your first gig doing it? Like after you graduated, what was your first kind of industry job doing sound design?
Yeah, the first half a year to a year or so, I just kind of, did whatever I could to make ends meet, while kind of looking around, trying to find an in. And luckily I was able to get in with a advertising and broadcast motion graphics studio who needed an audio person. And basically they, had me do a project, told the client, look, we're having this new audio guy on, he's going to try it out. We're not going to charge you for it, but if you like it, then use it. If not, no worries. And the client loved it, and so they basically hit me up and said, hey, can you come in to talk with us on Monday?
Nice.
And ended up getting a full-time from that. And yeah, worked with a bunch of cool clients, CNN, Cartoon Network, HGTV. It was a really cool experience.
Nice. And then that transitioned into, I know you worked at Rooster Teeth for a number of years doing sound design for animation. And then now you transitioned more into a game audio role at Intrepid Studios. So what's been comparing and contrasting, how's the difference in workflow and all that?
Yeah, I guess I've technically touched on all the different areas of audio you can potentially be in, barring some more specialized ones. Advertising and broadcast was very fast paced. Get stuff out rapid. It had an air date, so you had very hard deadlines, and that could be challenging at times, but it kind of forged my, ability to work fast and make decisions on the fly. And then, eventually over time, the broadcast industry started to decline. So it was time to move on. Yeah, so then I went to Rooster Teeth working on animation, and that was a completely different experience, but one that I was very excited for because there was so many cool things happening in animation, and a lot of cool opportunity to learn how to do really interesting sound design. And one of my first projects was a project called Genlock, which was a mecha anime. I'd never worked on anything of the sort before. And when I started at Rooster Teeth, basically the rest of the team was locked in on another project, Ruby, and they had to get that out because that was going out sooner. And so they kind of like just chucked me onto Genlock and was like, hey, just lay down some sounds, do what you can. So for 3 months, I was just like working on the first episode of this series pretty much by myself.
Cool.
And ended up doing about 80% of the episode. And so they came back on and they're like, oh, okay. Episode's like 80% done.
Nice.
So they helped me kind of finish out the last little bits of it. And it was a ton of like really cool experience, like basically designing the sound of that world from the ground up. And I was very fortunate to have the experience I had in that way.
Mm-hmm. So at Rooster Teeth and in your current role, you're in-house, you're a staff employee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your employer is providing access to a library of sounds in that situation, right? You've got the company is paying for your access to commercial sound libraries and things like that. When you're starting out, most people have to freelance and just hop on whatever kinds of projects they can get on. Where in the freelance world, you have to provide all that kind of stuff for yourself. You don't have an employer giving that to you. So that's one of the difficult things for people starting out in sound design. When they do have to kind of just feel things out and try to find their own clients and independent work, that can be very challenging. And getting access to good source material. That's kind of the main thing that we wanted to talk about today, because you've got a lot of great resources for getting access to good high quality source material without spending a fortune. In the old days, Sound Ideas had kind of a monopoly on things, and it was very very expensive to get access to that. Our students have you probably had access to Sound Ideas stuff when you were here as a student as well. They have access to it on Westar online, and that's great. But that goes away after you graduate, of course. So then they've got to figure out things on their own and cobble together whatever kind of source material they can. Buying a general sound effects library is still pretty cost prohibitive. Even now it's cheaper than it used to be. But if you're going to look at Sound Ideas or like Pro Sound Effects, they've got the hybrid library, or Sound Ideas has like the 6000 series, but you're going to spend $1,000 to get a good general collection of sound effects, which is out of reach for most people just getting their feet wet in the industry. So what kind of resources do you have in your sort of list? Because I know you've got a great blog post, which I'll promote a little bit if you don't mind. I think your website's andrewvscott.com. Is that the correct URL? So you've got a great blog post there. But can you kind of walk us through your go-to things that you would recommend to a student, somebody starting out in sound design, for getting access to some good source material?
Yeah, for sure. When I was starting out, I gobbled up all the free sounds that I could get my hands on. Like, I would keep an eye out on all the spots that I could, check out all the creator pages and dig through everything. And that was like, how I was able to get a lot of really high quality sounds without having, great recording equipment and a lot of time to go out and record. Nowadays, there's a lot more affordable options that are, professionals will use. The lawn mics, Mix Pre 3. Mix Pre 3 is pretty good. Zoom F3 is even cheaper, and it's very lightweight and compact. That's a great option. But you could even get something like a handheld recorder. I have a Roland RO7.
Nice.
It's great. Yeah, you can plug in the lav mics into it actually, so you have like the the onboard mics, but you can take your lawn mics and connect them and do like a drop rig or something like that.
So our students get the Zoom H5, in their launch box. So they, all the audio production
Cool.
students get at least a handheld recorder with the built-in XY mics, and they've got the built-in XLR inputs as well. So there is a feature on that, which some students may not know, that there is a 3.5 millimeter input on the on the XY capsule. Where you can plug in small electret mics, which is what Andrew's talking about. LOM's an independent manufacturer who makes cheap, small field recording microphones that are very sensitive. They're very high quality. There's some other competitors like Sonorous Objects and some other things.
Yeah,
but,
Sonorous is the
a lot of sound designers like these mics because they're very high quality, but they're relatively inexpensive, and you can plug them right into your handheld recorder in that 3.5 millimeter input. Just so students understand how that works, because it's not really something we talk about really in that recorder, but it's kind of a hidden feature that there's a little 3.5 millimeter input on the Zoom H5 they could use with those kind of mics.
Yeah, and that's a good option too. The lawn mics, I think they give you an option for XLR or 3.5 millimeter, but the 3.5 millimeter is easier to work with. It's a little more compact, especially if you're kind of running and gunning. So highly recommend those. I myself have the Sonorous Object SO4s, I think, which is kind of an equivalent to the LOM Uzi Pros, I believe.
I think these are the same capsules, those Primo capsules.
And those are great. Those are high quality. Professional sound designers and recordists use them all the time for various things. We have like guys like George Vlad going out into the jungle with them, and he'll sell those as on his library. So